So, I'm really glad to have you back on this channel, this new video, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe to join the community. We are hitting this first video with a really important topic, and I think it's something we all need to understand in a clear manner. So, before we get into this really serious and sensitive topic, we just have to remember that in 2025 we used to wear these kind of bluses, and let's just say goodbye to them and actually focus on just having a really lovely chill kind of atmosphere within my channel. Also, let's just get into the topic of today, which is mental health. And I know that we have been struggling with this, or that we are struggling with it. It's just a really necessary topic that should really be understood clearly. Mental health is either positive or negative, and I think that we've most of the time seen it as a negative kind of emotion, because most of the time it is. Mental health is really something that a lot of people struggle with. It just is this kind of epidemic that has been going on in this life or this world for a long time, I would say, especially since 2020 hit. I think that it's made people just be more prone to be surrounded by people or situations that they really don't like anymore, or they've been in a position where they had time to be isolated enough to know the kind of person they actually are and the kind of person they want to be, just kind of self-reflection type of things. But also it could be due to your environment, due to people that you don't want in your life anymore. Lots of factors that typically revolve around you and another situation, external situation that is affecting you. And I think that mental health is super important to have it be positive and have it be managed in a good manner, because when it's out of control, when it gets to a point where that you just are not able to control it whatsoever, and that it's actually just getting to you, to your head, it's making you go through this really insane cycle or lifestyle, that's when it has to be taken care of as soon as possible, because the more you live in that kind of atmosphere, the more it's going to literally destroy you. So mental health is obviously super important for your lifestyle, for you to live a great life, for you to continue striving, have a purpose in this life, to just live a life full of meaning instead of just being in it because there's still days ahead for you, just because you have to do it, just because you just have to live. You're on earth, you have to live. No, I think that mental health needs to be stabilized and taken care of, because the more it stays with you, the more it interacts with you, your brain and everything, it's just going to destroy your life, your purpose, your goals, and everything. So, even though as much as a situation gets, it's super important to actually know what you're going to do about what's actually destroying your well-being. So I think that most people, when it comes to mental health, they try to get rid of it by getting distracted. Maybe something happened in your household, there's just a toxic atmosphere, maybe that you just got out of a really toxic relationship, maybe just really crazy things that you only know yourself. You might think that getting distracted from it for a couple of hours will make you just forget about it, make you feel better. Maybe that going out to the mall, going on vacation, scrolling on your phone is going to help you a lot. You're going to forget about it for a few minutes, hours, days, weeks, but it's honestly just a distraction to make you forget, but it's not actually solving the key issue, the actual problem that is making you go back into this really unsustainable cycle that is just driving you crazy every single time it starts interacting with you. Maybe that you go on your phone because a situation hit you again and you forgot about it a couple months ago, so you want to get distracted because you don't want to think about it. So you take your phone, you doom scroll for hours and hours and hours and probably all day, and then yeah, maybe that it worked. Maybe that it made you forget that this situation even came up a couple hours ago. But I guarantee you that after a few hours or a few days or even a few weeks, okay, that emotion will come back 10 times worse, and it's going to make you just break apart, break into pieces, and make you get back into that really terrifying mental state that you are trying to get rid of. So the actually key thing that you should do to actually get rid of that horrible state would honestly be to face your problems. Face every single problems you have. It is not easy. It's not easy at all whatsoever, and I can guarantee you that it will maybe take you months or even years to truly, you know, face them all and heal from them. But that's the only actual way, okay? These problems you're facing is not between you and someone else. It's not for you to fix them with someone else, with a therapist. Yeah, I'm sure that it would help a lot of people, but I think that the actual way to completely get rid of these problems and actually get them out of your system is for you to face all of these terrible things within yourself, because you were the one that was put in front of all of these horrible situations. So you should be really focusing on, you know what, let me take a break, let me reflect on everything that is making my mental state just not it right now, and reflect on why it's making you just go crazy and why it's destroying your mental health. And as soon as you realize, oh, okay, this is the problem, you maybe went through a horrible relationship, then ask yourself, oh, why did you go through a terrible relationship? Oh, maybe that your partner was really terrible, maybe that terrible events happened, maybe it was toxic. Oh, okay, why was it toxic? Well, maybe that you guys were not compatible, maybe that the person was not emotionally intelligent. Oh, why? Try to push. My point is just, you know where I'm getting? Keep pushing to why every single time you figure out why. You go through each and every single layer of what caused it to hurt you so profoundly that you have to heal from it. Every single time you go through why this is bad, or why it's affecting you, why this person did you know, all these layers you have to go through carefully and attentively. And it's not gonna take a day. Trust it, it's not. Because the more you're going to want to ask the question why through each and every single layer, and that you truly in your heart want to know why, if you don't have the intent of actually wanting to know, you're not going to figure out exactly what you need. Because the more you dig in and you actually want to know and you actually are willing to understand, that's when your brain is going to unlock all of these layers that have been bothering you, that put you in this really profound situation that has invaded your whole mental health. And you know, that's what you. So basically, I would say facing your problems is going through your problems one by one. You don't go through them all at once. No, you figure out and you solve one problem at a time. It might take you years, as I said, but you want to make sure you go one problem at a time, because if you put them all together and try to solve them all at once, it's not going to work. It's not going to be sustainable. You're just going to make everything worse. So focus on one key problem at once until you figure it all out. And how you're going to figure it out is by asking why every single time you figure out the issue of that question, which the question is obviously why, right? So you want to dig through all of these layers, and once you get there and you realize things that you maybe forgot, and that you actually understand why they hurt you so bad, why they put you in this really terrible situation, then that's when you can reflect through that and try to understand how you're going to heal from it. Now that you have access to the full problem and why it bothered you, why it completely destroyed you, you can finally reflect on it and decide, okay, this is all that happened to you. So it's up to me, up to you to understand and truly believe if it's worth letting go so that you can finally live in peace. But as long as you don't face them and that you don't actually profoundly deep in your heart really want to get to the root cause of this issue, then you're not going to be able to solve it and heal from that trauma, that problem, that anything. Okay? So, as I said, first you want to know the problem, you want to ask the questions through all layers until you can't ask any more questions, and that question is obviously why. But you have to remember that these only work together if you actually truly want it in your heart. You want to get it out of you, you want to actually know, you want to actually just, because if you don't actually want it, your brain is not going to be able to release all of these key factors and key aspects of that famous question that we're constantly asking through all of these layers, which is why. So I think that that's honestly how you will be able to actually help a lot of that mental state to just be able to breathe again by actually figuring it out, by facing it with your own self. Going to isolate yourself for a few minutes every single day, even an hour, okay? And go through that problem, and then you can move on to the next problems as long as you know you are progressively healing from that one problem. So one problem at a time, okay? So you will not fix your trauma with distraction, but you will and you can if you actually want to understand it by facing them. You have to face your problems. You have to. You have to put yourself in that uncomfortable situation, and it's going to be hard, but you have to do it to move on. And you know what? Something really important as well while doing this. Obviously, you probably don't only have one problem, you probably have multiple. And so you're going to unlock all of these layers by asking why until you figure it out. But obviously, I think that it's really important for you to remember them so that you actually remember everything you discussed with your own brain through these minutes or hours. So I think it's really essential for you to invest in a little journal, okay? Even if it's a piece of paper you find on the ground. Every single problem you have, write it down on your journal and make, for instance, a chapter of, okay, problem number one, problem number two. Problem number one is going to be chapter one, problem number two is chapter two. And then you're going to list all of the key factors of that chapter one, so problem number one, and make sure you write it down so that you remember. That way, you go back to your journal or whatever and read every single key factor and remember, oh, this is why it's actually invading me. This is why it's not in favor of my mental health. And then you're going to easily be able to have that in front of you, that illustration in front of you, and constantly heal from it. But if you only rely on actually discussing it, which could be helpful, obviously, but you might forget. So just to make sure you don't actually forget, since it's going to be a long process, make sure to please just write it down somewhere. Write every single kind of this thing you've figured out within yourself, within that problem, somewhere. Write it down so that you don't forget it and so that you don't get frustrated for forgetting it. So just write it down somewhere, and that will be really beneficial to you because all you're gonna have to do is like, oh, I forgot. Oh, I wrote it down somewhere. Okay, let me go ahead and read it again so that I can remember what I have to heal from. And ta-da! You know? And honestly, if you really want to invest in that journaling kind of thing for this mental health journey, then on your journal as well, when you wrote down all of your problems, all of the layers of why and everything, you want to try to figure out what's the solution. The solution has to be thought about really profoundly. You can't just be like, that could be the solution and write it down. No, take a break. Literally ask yourself, what's the solution to the problem? Okay? So you had a really bad relationship. Take 5 minutes silence. Okay, in silence, just sit down. Okay, put your journal to the side or whatever, and just be with yourself. Breathe with yourself. Try to figure it out with yourself, with your brain. 5 minutes. Okay, don't write anything down. You sit down. Okay, you went through that really terrible relationship. That is the problem. And then you went through all the layers, blah, blah, blah. But the main problem is the bad relationship, toxic relationship. Okay, so what's the solution for the future? When you maybe think about it, reflect on yourself, you're probably going to realize, oh, The solution could be to maybe try to have higher standards, have higher expectations from a guy, from a girl. You're probably going to figure out a lot of things about yourself that made you end up in a relationship with that kind of person. Or maybe that you were the problem. And you can admit to it that, oh, maybe that you were the problem and that you have to work on yourself to not put yourself in this situation again. Basically, what I'm trying to say is when you're going to have this self reflection, you're not only going to find problems of the other individual or the external situation, but also you. You're going to see things that you could have done better, things that you did great, but that you can maybe improve. And that's what really matters, because when you start questioning things about yourself and figuring things about yourself, you're going to learn so much more of you that it's going to make you just build more of your character and maybe make you realize that, oh, you need to improve these things to become someone you actually want. Maybe that's what's going to make you realize, oh, the person you are right now is not the one you actually want for yourself, for your life. And that, oh, this past situation made you realize maybe that you should work on yourself to not be that old version who is constantly maybe attracting these similar problems and that are especially messing up your mental state. So just remember, when you're going to actually dive deep into this reflection of that problem, you're not only going to find out problems of that person, but mainly about yourself. And that is really important to take into consideration and also to take note of so that you can take advantage of it and actually work on that to better yourself. And the more you invest in yourself, the more you work on yourself, the less you're going to face these really inconvenient problems. And key factors that are really essential to understand when going through this whole process is that you have to try your best to change your environment the best you can. I know that you can't do it 100%. There's probably situations that are just so much more complicated than others, but try your best to find a plan, to build a plan to actually, get out of this environment that is constantly putting you back in this really horrible state. And then two other key factors that are quite related in my opinion and but that are super important is to, number one, I would say, to find a purpose in life. I keep saying that in most of my videos, but trust me, finding your purpose in life will literally help you improve your mental health long term, because you're not going to be living this empty life with no purpose. You're actually going to be living towards something that will make you want to live for something, because most people just live day to day with no purpose, just they live, you know? And everyone has their own journey, obviously, but I think that it's really essential to know where you're going and why you're living. And know that there's an end goal, not just say, you're just going to live until it's the end for you. Really. Find your purpose, don't live an empty life. I don't think it's really worth doing that, because even when you're young, I can guarantee you that maybe now you're like, oh, you don't really know what to do, blah, blah, blah. But when you get older, you're going to realize all the opportunities you actually had and what you could have done. And then you're going to be like, oh, you could have done that. You're going to just be full of regret. And that will be another problem. So just try to be more open-minded to what you can do to improve your lifestyle, your life, and have a meaningful life. It doesn't have to be extravagant, it doesn't have to be crazy, it just has to be something. But I think that, to me especially, and to a lot of other people as well, I think that what gives purpose to life is faith. And to me personally, the truth is in Islam. But I think that religion is super duper important, and that it literally hands you purpose to life. You might be so lost, but as soon as you have that in your heart and that you truly want to get closer to it and understand it, you're going to be attached because of all of the answers to your questions. And that will give you long-term purpose, a reason to live, no matter the difficulties. And that's why I would 100% always advise people to find their way, to find God, Allah, and to actually know why they're living and just know why these religions exist. But that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe to join the community. And if you have any thoughts on this video, you are always welcome to comment in the comments below. And yeah, bye.